Well, hello everyone, my name is Zwiggo and welcome back to another video. This week we're looking at the new Radical Red update that came out just last month, which added a lot of new content like hisuian forms from Pokemon Legends Arceus, and they also added their own exclusive Sevian forms which are post-game exclusive. There's also a lot of new post-game content like rematches with very strong trainers as well as the Sevi Islands. Pokemon can now also follow you around just like in Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver. And besides that, a lot of quality of life changes have also been added. We all know that Radical Red is not an easy ROM hack to complete, so I'll be playing through it today with the Dragon type. We do have a lot of powerhouses on the team like Cynthia's Garchomp, and of course all of the other overpowered pseudo-legendaries will also be available. But I won't be able to use many of them until the end game. Luckily for us, Dragon types are very versatile. So hopefully we can overcome all of our weaknesses and defeat this game. Before we jump into the video, let's try to smash 5,989 likes. And while you're down there, you might as well subscribe as well if you're enjoying the content. And with all of that out of the way, let's jump right into Pokemon Radical Red's new update with only Dragon types. We name ourselves after my personal favorite Elite Four member and best Dragon trainer ever, Drake. And our rival is going to be one of the Ice-type gym leaders with one of the coolest names ever, Wolfrick. Once we spawn into the map, we can pick a region from which we can then choose the 3 starter Pokemon of. I totally forgot that Sceptile was actually a full Dragon type in this game, so once I got myself to the table, I decided to go with my thrusty pal Mudkip despite not being able to use him. But don't worry, a little bit later on I will show you the absolute amazing power that Sceptile wields in this game. Since the challenge hasn't really started yet, I'm just going to skip over the rival battle and head straight to the Pokemon Center where you can make your Pokemon follow you. If you then go up to Nurse Joy's assistant, you can see that there is even more features. Like, you can change your Pokemon's nature anytime you want. There is a level cap system in this game as well, so you can check that. And you can swap your genders, which is especially useful if you're using a Kobe of a Salandit that needs to evolve ASAP. We then head back to the lab, pick up our Pokedex and balls, go back to Viridian City and pick up the fishing rod as well because some of our Dragon types are part water type. But then we get our first encounter, Chris the Applin, which we add to the team and we throw Mudkip in the garbage, sadly enough. Professor Oak's aid then gives me the Dex Nav, which is a very important item in this game for finding certain Pokemon and if you want to grind some EVs in the early game, which is something I'll definitely be doing. Just as I'm about to head on over to Viridian Forest, we run into Brandon, but easily overpower his team by taking out Corphish with Mega Drain and Trico with Dragon Breaths. Once defeated, he gives me the Stat Scanner and EXP Share, which are both very useful items. And once he runs off, we go back to grab a second Applin because we are going to be able to use Apple Ton and also Flapple, so I will also allow myself to use 2 Applins. In Pewter City, there is another patch of grass added, and over here we find an Axew. Something pretty overpowered at this point in the game, so I'll definitely add it to the team. There's also new challenges in this game where you have to beat a team of level 100 Shedinjas with only level 5 Pokemon. And if you think about it a little bit, it's not too hard because you have Stealth Rock available, which basically takes care of all of them. Once you defeat him, you get a special ability, an infinite repel that you can use whenever you like. So you never have to spend your money on repels anymore. And also grab a Mareep because Mega Ampharos is part Dragon type, so I will also allow myself to use Pokemon that Mega Evolve into Dragon types. And without this Mareep, it's going to be pretty hard to defeat Faulkner, so we evolve it into Fluffy and take him on at the museum in Pewter City. First, Axew puts in the work by taking out Rufflet with 2 breaking swipes and doing some chip damage on Emolga too. Then I swap out into Sean before my Axew goes down, and I take this thing down with Power Gem and the final Pokemon Corvisquire with Flash. We then get the Roost TM, which is going to be very powerful on some of our Dragon types. We then go to the Pewter City Gym to challenge Brock, and we start off with Applin against his Alolan Geodude. First we hit a Mega Drain, but it doesn't quite kill, and then he explodes, doing quite a lot of damage to me. But we survive, and he then brings in Vulpix, so I go into Axew, try to hit a Breaking Swipe, but he swaps out into Onyx. I then swap out into Applin, and just as I'm about to take it out with Mega Drain, he swaps out into Archon. So I swap in Fluffy instead, take it out with Power Gem. He brings out Onyx again, so Chris is going to overpower him with a Mega Drain, and his last Pokemon is going to be that Vulpix. So I bring in Fluffy again, take 2 Incinerates with only 4 HP remaining, and then Power Gem it to win my first ever gym badge. I then checked the Radical Red documentation to see which Pokemon I might have missed, and I missed an Execute, which can evolve into a Alolan Exeggutor, which is part Dragon type. And I then also grab a Trapinch and a Noibat. While going through Mount Moon, I also picked up the Dome Fossil, and just as I'm about to leave, Archer stops me. His team was pretty easy to beat though. Impidimp went down by my Flaffy, his Mightyena went down to my Axew's First Impression, and Houndour by 2 Breaking Swipes. I then complete another one of those challenges where I had to defeat a level 5 team of 6 Pokemon with a level 5 team of 3 Pokemon, and once I won that one, I got the ability to relearn any move to any Pokemon at any time. Just in front of Nugget Bridge, it's time to take our rival, which was not too hard because Velster just First Impressioned Curly out to take it out. Fluffy flashed Staravia. Please don't take that the wrong way. Chris took on his Rockruff with a couple of Mega Drains, and finally Ivysaur went down to my Breaking Swipe from Axew. Once defeated, he gives me the Poké Rider, which allows me to fly anywhere without needing an HM, but we don't really need that yet. First, I grabbed myself a Sunstone somewhere off the ground and evolved my Chris into Appleton. A pretty damn beefy Pokemon this early on in the game, so I'm definitely not going to complain. I went to check up on Misty with my beefy new apple cake to see what she had in store for us, and she started off with a Protein Frogadier, so I went with Power Gem on my Flaffy, but she predicted that I was going to go for an electric type move and went into Lantern. So I managed to get a critical hit on it and then swap out into Appleton. I then was able to put a Leech Seed on it and protect a couple of turns, but then he swapped out into Floatzel. I almost one-shot it with a single Mega Drain, but then his flip turned out into Starmie. And since this Starmie was just spamming Recover and doing nothing else, and my Mega Drain was doing more damage than it could heal, I would eventually be able to take it out. She then sent out Frogadier, and I went into Fluffy again. I get Frozen, but Frozen actually works differently in this game. It's just like in Pokemon Legends Arceus, where it takes a little bit of HP every single turn. I managed to hit 2 Power Gems, and just as I'm about to take it out with a third, he once again swaps out into Lantern. So Chris's Mega Drains carried me through Lantern 2, and Frogadier then stood no chance. 1 more Mega Drain, 1 more Pokemon defeated, 1 more Gym Badge added to our total. On the next route, just above the Nugget Bridge, I found Jean-Claude, the Swablu, who is going to be very, very important throughout this entire run. But before we check out his power, we first turn Bill back into a human and then evolve our Fluffy into an Ampharos, our Execute into an Alolan Exeggutor, and our Trapinch into a Vibrava, beefing up our team a lot. But it's really needed because we have a lot of really hard battles coming up. Starting off by battling Brendan on the SS Anne. Sadly enough for me, I do get seasick on Boast, so this was not the most pleasant battle ever. I started off with Appleton against his Loudred, but he had Ice Beam, almost killing me in 1 turn. My Apple Acid also brought him down into red health, so I swapped out into my Ampharos to take these Ice Beams, and then counter back with a Flash to take it out. Groudon was up next, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to one-shot this with Flash, but it killed me in 1 shot with Waterfall. But my Static paralyzed it, so I brought in Appleton, trying to take it out with a Mega Drain, but it still outsped me, despite it being paralyzed. So Gil the Exeggutor had to come in, Mega Drain the Groudon twice, and that's finally the end of it. But it still left me with only 2 HP as we go into the next Pokemon, Grovyle. It takes me out with a Power Punch, which gives it a +1 in attack, so I bring in Jean-Claude, who's able to take a Power Punch and a Rock Tomb, and then counter back with 2 Dual Wing Beats to take it out. Jean-Claude then couldn't do anything against Lunatone, so went down to Psyshock. I was able to hit a First Impression with Axew, but that was it as well, because this Lunatone survived and killed me again, but Vibrava was able to tank a Psyshock with 4 HP, and then counter back with a Crunch, taking out this evil Moon. We all know what happens after this rival battle. Rub the captain. After this very traumatizing experience, we finally flee the SS Anne to go back to the Pokemon Center and change around some natures on our Pokemon. which was definitely needed for the next gym leader, Lieutenant Surge, who started off with a Pincurchin against my Ampharos. I went for a Power Gem and then a Flash because it's been changed to an electric water type in this game, so that makes it neutral. Then he brings in Raichu. Was going to go for a Nasty Plot, but I Volt Switched out into Axew to go for the first impression after, and this takes down this Raichu before it can even hit me. I then hit a Dragon Claw on the next Pokemon Vikavolt, but a Bug Buzz takes me out from full health. I bring in Vibrava, Rock Slide this thing, and it flinches, so I'm like, okay, this thing goes down by another Rock Slide, go for another one, but he swaps out into Boltund. And I thought that I might have been faster, which wasn't the case, so an Ice Fang is the end of my Vibrava. I then get super lucky by bringing in Ampharos and getting a critical hit taking out Boltund, but then his Mega Manectric comes out. He Volt Switched out into Vikavolt and took down my Ampharos, so I bring in Gene Cloud and go for the dual Wing Beat. It still doesn't kill this Vikavolt after all this time, and he Volt Switches out into Manectric again. He then had nothing left for my Appleton and Volt Switched out into Vikavolt again. I took it out with Apple Acid and the Manectric with 2 more Apple Acids as well. And that's 3 gym badges acquired. Goodbye, Lieutenant Surge. I then finally get some use out of my fishing rod by capturing a Horsey and then also evolving my Swablu into an Altaria and my Axew into a Fracture. We then go all the way through Rock Tunnel and we didn't find a single new Dragon-type Pokemon, but just outside of Lavender Town, I found Grandpa the Drampa. Not the most useful Dragon-type, but it's still pretty damn strong with a very high special attacking stat. I then waste no time and go straight to Celadon City and pick up a bunch of evolutionary items to beef up the team even more by evolving Noibat into Noivern, Vibrava into Flygon, and Fracture into Haxorus. With these powerhouses, I decided to go and barge into Erica's gym, which smelled pretty damn nice. I did lead off at Noivern because I knew that Rillaboom wasn't going to be able to do much against me, so I went for the Aeroblast and took it down in 1 turn. We then see our first hisuian form, Hisuian Electrode, so I swapped out into Haxorus and it went for Hidden Power Ice, which I was able to tank and hit back with First Impression to take it out. You have no idea how useful this First Impression is on Haxorus. I'm glad I looked for an Axew that had it on him. She then brought out her Mega Pokemon, Venusaur. So I went into Altaria, but it put me to sleep and hit me with 3 Sludge Bombs to take me out. I was still able to hit a couple of dual Wing Beats doing about half of its health, but ultimately Noivern had to come in to take it out with Aeroblast. Meganium then almost went down to an Aeroblast as well, but because it's now part Fairy type, its Dazzling Gleam dazzles me and takes out Noivern pretty easily. Appleton is then able to come in, tank a Dazzling Gleam, hit back with a Apple Acid, and finally end off Meganium's Reign of Terror. The final Pokemon on our team was the contrary Serperior, which is very scary to face. It took me out with a Dragon Pulse and a Leaf Storm, boosting his attack by 2 stages as well. Luckily for us, we still have Haxorus in the back and we blow her away with a First Impression, taking our 4th gym badge. And before we go and take on Giovanni, there's quite a lot of stuff to do. First, I evolve my Seadra into Kingdra with the help of a Prism Scale. Then I take out Chuck into Fighting Dojo, who gives me the TM for Drain Punch as well as an Expert Belt, which can be useful at this point in the game, but will probably drop off at the end. I then took on more Johto gym leaders, defeating Bugsy and Whitney as well, and the only really useful item I got from them was Eviolite. Since we're now all warmed up, it's time to take on everybody's favorite boss of the Mafia, Giovanni. And I've already done this battle a couple of times since I lost, so I started out with Flygon and went for Dragon Claw because I knew he was going to switch out into his Rotom Ice. I then proceed to take it out with a Rock Slide, then he brings out his Nidoking again, so I go for the Earthquake this time, finally taking it out. I managed to hit his Mega Kangaskhan 2 times in a row with Earthquakes, but because of his ability and Fake Outs, Power Punches, and Body Slams, my Flygon finally went down. Haxorus' First Impression can then finish it off, but then he has a Honchkrow which never ever misses a critical hit, so every single one of his moves is going to be a critical hit. I managed to hit 2 double chops, but that doesn't take it out, and we get taken out by Drill Pegs. Ampharos then goes for the discharge, taking out the Honchkrow, but Infernape takes me out with close combat. Luckily, my static ability comes in, paralyzing the Infernape, so my Kingdra can come in, outspeed it twice, and go for the Brine, taking out Giovanni and giving me the Sylph Scope. With this Sylph Scope, we of course go to the Pokemon Tower, and at the top of it, we have to fight a Totem Alolan Marowak that's shiny. This thing almost took out my entire team a couple of times, so we just had to go for the first impression on Haxorus, taking it out, then saving Mr. Fuji and taking on Morty. We get the Sooth Bell, Shed Shell, and Shadow Ball as a reward, which aren't that useful for us, so we go straight to Silphco after and take on our rival there. And this battle is where Altaria really starts to show its colors. I set up 2 Cotton Guards on the first Pokemon Staraptor, and because most of his team is actually physical attackers, he's not going to be able to touch me for a long time. But I basically do no damage as well because I don't have Dragon Dance on Altaria yet. Anyway, by absolutely spamming Dual Wing Beat on Azumarill 8 times in a row, we finally take it out, and then he brings in Darmanitan, another physical attacker. He luckily immediately U-turns out into Electivire, which we can take out with a bunch of Dragon Claws. My Altaria's Reign of Terror is then finally over as he brings in Venusaur, his only special attacker, and goes for Sludge Bomb. So I swap out into Flygon, but I get put to sleep, which causes me to swap out into Noivern instead, finally taking out Venusaur with Aeroblast. Staraptor finishes me off with Quick Attack, and I revenge kill it with my Ampharos' Discharge, but Darmanitan then takes me out with a Flare Blitz. I do still have my Kingdra in the back, and after tanking an Earthquake, we hit it with a Scald and win another battle. Then we pick up the Lapras, who has been changed to a Dragon type in this game, so Nelly here is definitely going to help us out in the upcoming battles. We then did a very weird and confusing battle with our rival against the 2 Team Rocket admins, but we managed to overpower them with the help of our new Pokemon Lapras. And we kind of made his Sceptile do most of the work. After winning, he gives me a Trico, which we will evolve into Sceptile a little bit later on, but first we take on Giovanni and try to save the Director. He now has a little bit of a Sand team going on, so I lead off with my Lapras against his Hippowdon. I easily take it out with a Hydro Pump and an Ice Shard, but he was able to set up Stealth Rocks. Against Kangaskhan, his next Pokemon, I use a Protect because I knew it was going to go for Fake Out. It then goes for Power Up Punch, and I miss my Hydro Pump, so Body Slam can take me out the turn after. This was definitely not optimal, so I brought out my Noivern, went for Hurricane and confused it, hoping that it would hit itself in its own confusion, which didn't happen, and Noivern also went down to Body Slam. Luckily, Haxorus' first impression once again came in clutch, taking down this Kangaskhan, but then his Excadrill came out, which I didn't really have anything for. I still decided to stay in, and it went for a Swords Dance. I was able to hit 2 dual chops in a row, almost taking it out, but then an Iron Head finished off Haxorus. Luckily, Flygon's Earthquake was enough to then take out the Excadrill, and also the next Pokemon, Garchomp, went down to a single Dragon Rush, and the final Pokemon was Poltegeist. Once again, 1 Earthquake later, and Giovanni has been driven out of the tower. We get ourselves a Master Ball, which we will later on use to capture a very cool Pokemon, but now we don't really have a use for it. We now get access to Sabrina's gym, so that's where we're headed next, and I decided to switch up the team just a teeny tiny bit by bringing in Drampaw, because Drampaw really isn't that fast, and she uses a Trick Room team, so we might be able to take advantage of that. The other cool thing about this game is that Sabrina is a shiny hunter and her entire team is filled with shiny Pokemon. That isn't going to stop us from taking them out, as my Haxorus takes out the Hatterene with a single Iron Tail, which is very important because now she can't set up Trick Room. I also do a lot of damage with Dragon Rush on Indeedee, but an Expanding Force really crippled my forces too. I then take out the Indeedee with Dragon Claw and do a lot of damage on Crawdaunt with Dual Chop, but a knockoff finishes off my Haxorus. She then brings out a big problem, Porygon 2, a Pokemon that I can not kill in a single turn and is always going to be able to set up a Trick Room. I try my best though by hitting with Dual Wing Beat and a Dragon Rush, but it isn't enough and my Flygon gets taken out by Knockoff and she sets up the Trick Room. I then try to do as much damage as possible on this Porygon Z with my new Pokemon Drampaw, but it still doesn't really do that much and swaps out into Ursaluna once it's in danger from getting taken out. This is actually a very good thing though. Despite it having Flame Orb, I still set up my Cotton Guards with Gene Cloud so it can basically not touch me. I then bring in Lapras and start using a bunch of Protects to block their attacks, and I keep setting up with my Altaria using Cotton Guards and Dragon Dances. Eventually my Lapras goes down, I bring in Noivern, finally take out that pesky Crawdaunt with an Aeroblast, but the Ursaluna also takes down my Noivern. Then I only have Altaria yet, but I'm fully set up and take out Porygon 2, the next Pokemon, with dual Wing Beat, as well as our ace Pokemon Mega Gardevoir with the same move, and Ursaluna finally fell to dual Wing Beats as well. And once you defeat her, she gives you some very important items like a Gardevoirite and a shiny charm, so you can now start shiny hunting yourself if you really want to. I then finally found the only hisuian form I can use, hisuian Sliggoo, in a raid den. So once I captured it, I went to a rainy route and immediately evolved it into Goodra. In the next couple of routes, I found myself a Charmander, which can ultimately turn into Mega Charizard X, which is part Dragon type, and I also found a Duraludon, who in this game can also Mega Evolve into a big fat skyscraper. For the next gym leader, Koga, I only made one small change to my team, and that was adding Goodra and getting rid of Drampa. Koga focuses on speed, so he's just going to try and outspeed my entire team. Honestly, if you would just use a Trick Room team, he would have nothing on you. But that's not what we're doing here. We're going to take on a Swellow with our Goodra, which is going to hit us with a Boom Burst, not doing too much damage, and I counter back with an Ice Beam, one-shotting it. The next Pokemon was a Selgor, so Maxi could come in, take a Sludge Bomb, and counter back with an Aeroblast, taking it out. For his Greninja, I swapped out into Lapras and tanked a bunch of Dark Pulses, then put a Toxing on him, and then just started protecting until the Greninja went down. I only have enough HP remaining to go for one more Ice Shards against the next Pokemon Drapion before getting taken out by Wicked Blow, which is an attack that always results in a critical hit. But I bring in Flygon anyway, managed to tank it with only 15 HP remaining, and then take out Drapion with Earthquake. Dragapult is then going to come in and finish me off with Flamethrower. Goodra can then tank a hit from this thing and counter back with Dragon Pulse, taking it out, as well as doing some very major damage against this next Pokemon, Mega Toxtricity, but also falling to a Boom Burst. I then realized that this thing wasn't going to go down by my Haxorus's first impression, so I brought in Altaria instead and went for the dual Wing Beat. After that chip damage was done, my Altaria went down, I could safely bring in Haxorus and first impression this thing to take it out and win my 6th gym badge. On the next round, I found myself one of the coolest fossil Pokemon ever created, Dracovish. Also, one of the most overpowered ones with Fish's Rend, so I'll definitely take it. The next trainer we have to face is just in front of the Safari Zone, and it's Brendan, but this fight was really damn easy. I just brought in my Altaria, set up a couple of Cotton Guards on this first Pokemon, Metagross, and then just set up 6 Dragon Dances and sweep through his entire team with dual Wing Beat. He had absolutely nothing on me, so I entered the Safari Zone straight after, grabbed myself the HM for Surf, and some pretty damn useless Dragon-type Pokemon as well, which I never really used. Now that we finally have Surf, I picked up a couple of Megastones, starting off with the Ampharos site in the Power Plant. In the same Power Plant, I also swatted away a big bird that was flying against my window, and I took out a JoJo fan. Never really watched JoJo myself, so I don't really understand this, but I managed to win the Machampite and Prison Bottle from him. Then it was time to add Sceptile to the team, so I evolved my Grovyle and grabbed the Megastone from one of the scientists. Then we surfed all the way to Cinnabar Island, where we met up with another rival of ours, May, that we've actually never seen before in this game. I mean, you can fight with her in the raid dens, but that's about it. This is her only major appearance that I know of. And well, basically the same thing happened as with Brendan. First, I took out her Solrock with my Goodra's Flash Cannon and my Dracovicious Fish's Rend, but then I just brought in Altaria once they went down and set up my Cotton Guards, Dragon Dances, and sweep through her entire team once again. Altaria can just be that overpowered if you just use it with this moveset. So after the battle, I went into the mansion and grabbed the secret key, went to Blaine's gym, and I answered every single question right, which makes me a Pokemon master, allowing me to challenge him in a battle of knowledge. So let's see how we come out on top in this one. First, he starts off with a Torkoal against my Flygon, which sets up the drought for the rest of his team. I'm going to Earthquake it 2 times in a row to take it out, but he was able to set up Stealth Rocks, which are going to cripple my team a little bit. He then brought in his Sunflora, which is now a Fire Grass type, and takes me out with a single Seed Flare, so Noivern can then revenge kill it with an Aeroblast. His Libero Cinderace then kills me with Zen Headbutt, which is not too great because now it's a Psychic type. Luckily, my ace in the hole Altaria can come in, and because this Cinderace is a physical attacker, I just set up my Cotton Guards and Mega Evolve, proceed to Dragon Dance advance up again, and then we take out Cinderace, Typhlosion, Mega Charizard Y, and finally Exeggutor with a couple of dual wing beats, giving me my 7 gym badge, as well as the choice specs, a very important item later on in the league. Since we just faced a man with a Charizard Y, I'm going to counter back with a Charizard X myself by picking up the Mega Stone from the same scientist, and then heading straight for Giovanni's gym to try and get my final gym badge, but Brendan turns up. As it turns out, Team Rocket is up to no good once again, and they're trying to capture Mewtwo in Cerulean Cave. This is where, in my opinion, the hardest Radical Red battle comes up. It's the Gauntlet battle with the two admins, Archer and Ariana. In every single playthrough I do of Radical Red, these two give me the most trouble by far. I don't know what it is, but I always have to attempt their battle at least like 20 or 30 times. Probably because you're basically taking on 8th Pokemon with only 6 of your own, but that's not all. They also have some pretty decent Pokemon on those teams that can deal a lot of damage to your team. For example, they have a Mimikyu that can not be one-shot and will always set up a Swords Dance and probably kill one of your Pokemon with it, which already leaves you with only 5 Pokemon to beat the next trainer, Ariana. The rest of Archer's team is pretty easy to take down. Mamoswine gets taken out by Lapras as well as Durant, but then Lapras goes down by that Mimikyu, and I bring in Sceptile to take out the last 2 remaining Pokemon, Mimikyu and Houndoom, with Bullet Seeds and Quick Attacks. Then we go into the Ariana battle, and it starts off great here because my Dracovish is still alive. I can Fisher's Rend the Hatterene to easily one-shot it, but then she brings out her Mega Mawile, who is also going to lower my attack with its Intimidate. So I decide to sack off my Sceptile by swapping it in because it's already taken too much damage, and then Mawile finally goes down by my Charizard's Flare Blitz, but because I also take recoil damage and get hit, my Charizard also easily gets taken out by Honchkro's critical hit Sucker Punch. Because it's always going to critical hit, my Altaria also goes down because Cotton Guards don't matter, and then I finally bring in my Dracovish again to take out this Honchkrow and the next Pokemon Rhyperior with Fish's Rends. It took me quite a while to beat them, but I'm glad I finally did it. Our next battle might actually be harder if you didn't get the help of the Pokemon champion at this moment, Lance the Dragon Master. This is namely a double battle. He will use Dragapult, Dialga, and Mega Salamence, and I will be using my Dracovish, Altaria, and Goodra. We start off by taking down their Scrafty with a Fish's Rend from Daryl. We also get a Light Screen from the Dragapult, which is going to cause me to survive a Moonblast from Tapu Lele. He then brings in Celesteela, which we can once again one-shot with Fish's Rend, and Dragapult goes for Phantom Force, taking down the Tapu Lele the turn after, and I can one-shot his next Pokemon, Tyranitar, once again with Fish's Rend. It's looking pretty good right now. He only has 2 Pokemon left, and we've not lost any. But the last 2 Pokemon are pretty hard to deal with, Excadrill and Mewtwo. Both of our Pokemon get taken down by a single Rock Slide from that Excadrill. So I swap in my Mega Altaria, and I basically don't do anything with it because I set up a Dragon Dance thinking I will outspeed the next turn. It doesn't happen, and we get taken out by Expanding Force. The Salamence, however, was able to hit an Earthquake, doing a lot of damage on the Excadrill. We then bring out our last 2 Pokemon, Goodra and Dialga, finish off the Excadrill and also the Mewtwo, but as the Mewtwo goes down, it Mega Evolves into Mega Mewtwo Y, who is able to take down my Goodra, but Dialga is still alive and he is able to finish off the battle for us. Once all of that is over, Mewtwo collapses the cave because we're apparently not worthy of capturing him, and for some reason we just let Team Rocket go because apparently they're good now. Since we just saved the entire region, it's time for us to go back to Pewter City and take on not Giovanni as the 8th gym leader, but Claire from the Johto region. Dragon Trainer versus Dragon Trainer. Let's see who has the better team. Well, she immediately starts cheating by bringing out a non-dragon type Pokemon, Aerodactyl, so I just take that out with a 5-shot skill shot from Sceptile. She then brings out her Magearna, so I go into Charizard, tank 2 Floor Cannons with 6 HP, and then take it out with a single Flare Blitz. Because of the recoil damage, my Charizard goes down. I bring in Duraludon, but a Draco Meteor from her Naganadel one-shots me. And she also gets a speed boost because of Beast Boost. I then proceed to bring out Goodra to take on Naganadel with a Dragon Pulse. Duraludon is then able to take me out with 2 Draco Meteors from his own, but I also hit a Dragon Pulse doing a lot of damage on him. Now it's time for my Sceptile to shine, and I bring him in, take out the Duraludon with my Skill Shot as well as the next Pokemon, Dragonite, but Dracovish survives and takes me out with Fish's Rend. I then counter back by bringing out my own Dracovish, taking it out with Fish's Rend, and gaining my 8th gym badge. This also gives me the ability to learn Draco Meteor to my Pokemon from her, so that's something I'll definitely be utilizing. But first we have 2 more rival battles to take on, starting out with Wolfrick, who we easily sweep with Altaria's Cotton Guard, Dragon Dance, and Dual Wing Beat strategy, and then we head on over to Victory Road to take on Brandon one final time. I start off with Charizard against his Deoxys speed and manage to tank a Psychic. Then, because this thing has Focus Sash, I go for the Dual Wing Beat to take it out. Landorus then finishes me off with Sludge Wave the turn after, but that's no problem because I won't be needing Charizard anymore. Instead, I bring in Dracovish to take down this Landorus with Fish's Rend, but Zapdos then takes me out with Close Combat, and I do have to say I absolutely love Galarian Zapdos' design. It reminds me of the menacing Terror Bird. Anyway, since the rest of his team is all physical attackers, you already know what I'm gonna do. Bring in Altaria, put up my Cotton Guards and Dragon Dances, take out Huntail, Jirachi, Sceptile, and Zapdos, and make sure Brendan doesn't challenge to become Pokemon Champion. Before we go and challenge the Pokemon League ourselves though, we have a couple more things to do. First, capture all of these pseudo-legendary dragons in Victory Road because they're all available there. Of course, I won't be using every single one of them. But since I've now gotten my 8 gym badge, something new unlocked as well, roaming Pokemon. So I decided to look for either Latios or Latias, and the first one I found was Latios. And I just decided to lob my Master Ball at it and add it to the team. Just in front of the league, we beat another team of level 100 Shedinjas. Actually, he beat his own team because his Gigalith had Sadstream, which caused all of his other Shedinjas to faint. But it's still not time to actually take on the Pokemon League. I went around the entire region, re-challenged some gym leaders and some more Johto gym leaders that I hadn't defeated yet to grab a lot of useful items. From Brock, I grabbed the Stone Edge TM. From Jasmine, I grabbed the Choice Band. From Chuck, the Focus Sash, and from Price, the Choice Scarf. With all of these very powerful items, I decided to craft a team. The team I went into the Elite Four with was Mega Sceptile, my Dracovish, Jean-Claude the Altaria, Buckethead the Garchomp, Turbo the Goodra, and finally Neo the Latios. And of course, all giving them a complementary item like Dracovish as Choice Scarf, Latios as Life Orb, but I do switch around items in between battles, so not everybody's always holding the same item. First off, we face off against Lorelei's Water-type team. And I lead off with Sceptile and Dracovish. I take down the Poliwrath with Bullet Seed and do a lot of damage on Politoed with Fish's Rend. Then he brings in Kingdra. Anyway, I decided to swap out my Sceptile for Altaria because I knew that my Sceptile was going to get hit with a Dragon Pulse otherwise. And Altaria really isn't as useful in this battle, so I can just sack it. I then take out Politoed with Fish's Rend as well, and she brings in a Dracovish of her own. My Altaria gets taken out, so I bring in Goodra the turn after, and then they take out my Dracovish, so I take down their Dracovish with Dragon Pulse. Now a big threat comes out, Mega Swampert, and I bring out Latios. I double up with Dragon Pulses on Kingdra, but Latios goes down before he can get one off. Luckily, Goodra is able to take down this Kingdra with its Dragon Pulse, but then an even bigger threat comes out, Primal Kyogre. Luckily for us, the Swampert didn't go for Ice Punch to take out my Sceptile, instead it went for Earthquake to take out my Goodra, which meant that my Sceptile could go for the Bullet Seed and take out the Swampert. The Kyogre itself also took a lot of damage from the Earthquake, and it can take out my Sceptile with its Water Spout. So I bring in my Garchomp, now it's 2 against 1, and my Sceptile's Bullet Seed can finish it off and win my battle against Lorelei. You might have already guessed what I did for Bruno. I actually just set up a Cotton Guard with my Altaria, and then another one, and then I Dragon Danced, and Dragon Danced even more, and just sweeped his entire team with dual wing beats. Even his Crown Zacian couldn't do enough damage to take me out. And once Zacian was down, his team was easy. We took out Terrakion, Scizor, Conkeldurr, Mega Lucario, and finally Urshifu, all with the same move, dual wing beat. And Altaria has definitely showed its power in this run. But we definitely aren't finished yet. Let's see what Agatha has in store for us. Don't be fooled by her first Pokemon, as it's just an illusion, Zoroark. So I start off with Sceptile, Mega Evolve him, and just use Scale Shot to take it out in one turn. I then get Shadow Sneaked by the next Pokemon, Marshadow, but it doesn't quite take me out, and another Skill Shot gets me another kill. Because I'm now at +2 in speed, I can also outspeed Spectrier and one-shot that too. For her Aegislash, however, I had to swap out. So I brought in John Cloud, did a little bit of chip damage with Dual Wing Beat, and ultimately just sacked it, because I don't really need it in this battle. I then swapped in Garchomp, went for the Earthquake, but she predicted that and swapped out into her Levitate Gengar. So then I decided to sack another Pokemon by bringing in Latios, taking a Shadow Ball, not too well, and going down. I then swapped in my Sceptile, and I thought that I was going to be faster for some reason, but Gengar outspeeds me and kills me with Sludge Wave. So instead I bring in Daryl, and I survive his Sludge Wave on him, crunch the Gengar, and it's finally down. Her next Pokemon is a Silvally, and I thought this was going to be a Ghost-type Silvally, but it's a Dark-type, so my crunch barely did anything. Not that I could have done anything else because I was choice-banded. And that's bye-bye to my Dracovish. Now it's finally time for Garchomp to put in some work. He Earthquakes the Silvally, takes it out, and the last Pokemon Aegislash as well. Now it's time to take on the Ultimate Dragon Master, Lance, and show him that Drake is indeed superior. He has a Garchomp and a Focus Sash who always tries to set up Stealth Rocks first turn, so I lead off with my Mega Sceptile and just took it out with my Skill Shot. He then brought in Melmetal, so I knew I couldn't do anything against this, and I swapped in my Dracovish. I went for Vicious Rend, did about half of its health, and I actually survived 2 double Iron Bashes with 1 HP, and just as I'm about to take out Melmetal, he swaps out into Dragonite with Multiscale, so my Vicious Rend barely does anything. As I'm about to take out the Dragonite with another Vicious Rend, I get taken out by Extreme Speed Priority. So I bring out my Mega Sceptile again, I know Dragonite can outspeed me, and I take it out with a Skill Shot after getting hit with Extreme Speed. Melmetal once again comes out, so I bring out Goodra, who tanks a double Iron Bash, hits back with a Thunder, and then gets taken out by another one. Then going to Sceptile again and hit it with a couple more skill shots to take it out, also raising my speed so I can outspeed the rest of his team. Not that that really mattered though, because his Primal Dialga comes out and kills me with a single Roar of Time as I just do a little bit of chip damage with Scale Shot. I swap in Garchomp, go for the Earthquake, do about half of its health, but then get roared out by Roar of Time, which is a new feature that it has. Luckily, it roars out into my Latios, I can outspeed and take out Dialga with Draco Meteor, but then he has a Dracozolt with Choice Scarf, who easily outspeeds me and kills me with a Dragon Claw. So I go into the only thing that can tank a Dragon Claw from this, Altaria, and I get super lucky because of his hustle ability. He misses his second Dragon Claw, and I can just proceed to set up my Cotton Guards and Dragon Dances to then finally take it out with Dual Wing Beats. The last Pokemon is another physical attacker, Mega Salamence, so this thing has nothing on me. A couple more Dual Wing Beats, and we have defeated Lance. And now it's time to challenge Wolfrick for the title of Pokemon League Champion. And he has a team that's nothing to sneeze at. He starts out with a Pheromosa, already a very menacing Pokemon. Luckily, my Sceptile is able to just Scale Shot it a couple of times, and I had to put a Short Scarf on my Sceptile, otherwise it could not outspeed this thing. So no Mega Sceptile for this battle. He then brings out his own Mega Pokemon, Mega Metagross. I still do a little bit of chip damage with Scale Shot, but then get taken out by Zen Headbutt. This chip damage is actually necessary for my Garchomp to KO it with Earthquake the next turn, because otherwise he has a small chance to survive. He then brings out Yveltal, I go for the Stone Edge and do over half of its health, but it heals itself up with Oblivion Wing by taking me out. Luckily, I just bring in my Dracovish, I get hit with a Sucker Punch, but then counter back with Vicious Rend to take out Yveltal, and he only has 3 Pokemon left. But these 3 are absolute powerhouses, starting off with Eternatus, who's going to absolutely wreck my Dracovish with Dynamax Cannon. So I bring in my Goodra, and I try to take it down with Draco Meteor, but just as I'm about to, he swaps out into his Primal Groudon, which is kind of perfect for me because I know he's going to go for a Ground-type move, and I swap in Altaria, which means I can set up some Cotton Guards, since his Groudon only has physical attacking moves. Sadly enough, he does see through my strategy and decides to bring in Eternatus. So I go into Latios, sack it to the Dynamax Cannon so that I can safely bring in Goodra, go for the Draco Meteor, and take out this Eternatus. Groudon then comes out and it hits me with a Fire Punch, taking out my Goodra, but this is good because now its speed is lowered, so I can safely bring in my Altaria and set up a Cotton Guard on my first turn. I do get paralyzed by Thunder Wave, but then it's just setting up with Cotton Guard and Dragon Dances, but not fully. Just enough so that I can take him out. Because the last Pokemon on his team is an Imposter Ditto, which copies my stats and everything, so that's why I haven't Mega Evolved yet. Once the Ditto comes out, he copies my Altaria, I Mega Evolve so I'm stronger, and I set up even more Dragon Dances, and ultimately take down Ditto with a lot more dual Wing Beats. And boom, just like that, we have defeated Pokemon Radical Red with only a Dragon-type Pokemon, becoming the best Dragon Tamer in history. And if you would want to see even more Pokemon Radical Red content, I do want to play the post-game, so leave a comment down below and a like if you want to see that in a future video. But for now, I'm going to end it off here. As always, I want to thank my membership and Patreon supporters for supporting the channel. If you want to do so yourself, you can click the links in the description. It is always appreciated, but not needed. And with all of that out of the way, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends. I'm Zwiggo, and I'll see you guys next time.